Today we gather to say goodbye, to celebrate a life, to be reminded of a person, a strong character, to support, to love, to cry, maybe to laugh, to ask questions, to hold each other, to embrace a new reality, to look for peace, maybe to look into the future with hope, and to remember somebody that was so dear. Today we're here to celebrate the life of Brock D. Owen Hirsche. I think we're supposed to say his whole name. Who lived life well, who lived life full, who celebrated well, who worked hard, who loved well, who cared for others well. Today we celebrate and mourn a son, a boyfriend, a grandson, a cousin, a nephew. I look around, I assume a teammate, a golfing buddy. We celebrate an overachiever, a fighter, an example, a buddy. But I think if we could all share a story, we would likely say a friend. So let's start this afternoon with a word of prayer. God, we come here before you sad. We come before you hurting for a family that's lost, for a friend that's gone. God, I pray that today you would be here, that you would give us some hope, that we would leave here with some peace. God, use this time to help us grieve. We pray these things in your Son's name. Amen. Welcome here to all of you. Thank you so much for coming. I would assume if I give Tim the mic anyways, he would do a lot of talking, but Tim and Charla, the mic, they would say thank you. They would express sincere thank you for coming to join them. Thank you from Sydney. Thank you from their families for coming here together, to be together, to celebrate Brock's life. Thanks for coming together just to grieve, just to join together. We need each other to do this. My name is Mark Dick. I'm a pastor at the Evangelical Free Church here in Lethbridge. I didn't know Brock, maybe the only person in the room that didn't know Brock. And I have the mic, so you have to listen. Mark thinks it's funny, but the crazy thing is, I've heard stories about Brock, I've seen pictures, I've watched this slideshow that you guys were watching a lot of times already. I've been on Facebook and Instagram. It's easy to creep. I can read stories about Brock and lots of stuff. I wasn't a part of the extended family. I didn't actually even know the Hirsches. But in true Brock fashion, I got sucked in. I'm a part of it now. I get to be a part of this. I get to walk through this with you. I get to listen and learn and be a part of this extended family. Thank you. It's always an honor to walk with you, the family, and with all of you through something significant, a significant loss, not only for a family, but for a community that stretches a long ways. I got to stand in the players' box and watch many of you come in and see jerseys and stuff from all over. Awesome. So cool to be together to do this, to process through this. C.S. Lewis once said, "No one ever told me that grief felt so much like fear." Maybe that's how some of you feel today. Your grief might have taken many shapes before today, but maybe fear is one of those shapes, one of those emotions. Maybe this dealing with death and the loss of a good friend or a teammate or a buddy or a cousin is something that's altogether new. It's scary and altogether unknown. But today we walk this grief together. Today we conquer this fear together. Today we remember and grieve a friend that was unique. He was different. And he was altogether special. Today we grieve a real person. A real person that, I'm guessing by all of your presence here, affected our lives, changed you. A real person that experienced pain and sorrow like you. A real person that experienced joy and celebration, maybe even with many of you. A person that suffered defeats. A person that exuded joy and love and care for other people. A person that might have even got angry at times. Brock was a real person. A real person that was meaningful and made an impact. Today we're going to remember. Today we're going to hear stories. We're going to hear memories. We're maybe going to cry again and again. And we're maybe going to laugh. We might long for one more minute with Brock. Oh, I wish I could have one more minute. Which might make us cry. But we're also going to be thinking about maybe the 5 minutes that you got to spend with him, or the 26 years that you got to spend with him. I bet you could tell stories for hours. Hey, Tim, Charlie, you got a few stories? 26 years of experience, of stories, of memories. We're going to hear a few songs. Songs that meant something to Brock and his family and his friends. I heard he liked to sing. Some people say it was good. Others have given other sort of feedback on this. So as you hear the songs playing intermittently, hum along, sing. You know, I think that Brock would have sang if he heard the songs, right? And maybe like obnoxiously even. So hum along, sing them if you know the words. Think about the memories of when you heard him sing the song last or first. It might feel a bit like a roller coaster for the next little while. But that's okay. We're going to leave here changed. We're going to leave here different. But we're going to do this together. This is an important part of the process. To start off today, we're going to hear a tribute. The eulogy. Richie Sutter is going to share with us. He's a close friend of the family. He's an important person in Brock's life, and he's going to share some memories and some special things to Richie for all of us to listen. So Richie, if you'd come up here and share with us.
Hello everyone, I'm Rich Sutter. Before I start here today, I just want to say that Brock is looking down from above, and I know he's fist pumping right now at the honor guard that led us all in here today, and I think all you people over there, young ones, should be very honored and proud, and I'm very happy you're here. I'm incredibly honored to be standing here today. It is not an easy task. I am privileged to share the impact that Brock had in my life and on all the lives around me here. Tim, Shar, Dan, Pat, and Sydney. From the bottom of my heart, I'm deeply sorry for your loss. Looking out at everyone here, I'm not surprised that so many of us have gathered to honor Brock in this space. The hockey rink, exactly where Brock would want us all to be. When he made the brave decision to end his treatment, he started thinking about what this day might look like. Brilliantly, Brock thought he invented the idea of the celebration of life instead of a funeral. So let's celebrate. Each person in this room has been impacted by Brock. Most of you probably think you're Brock's best friend, but I'm pretty sure that I was. He would be so thrilled to see so many of you here today in your jerseys, just as he wanted, especially those 49er jerseys. In the words of Brock, he'd just say, let's treat today like it's a 49ers day. I first saw Brock when he was 7 years old at a rink in town. I couldn't help but notice this big, sloppy 7-year-old kid right on the ice, right in the middle of everything. And I loved it. It was at this young age that Coach Warren Babe coined his lifelong nickname, Moose. When asked where this came from, Warren simply said, Brock didn't try to skate around the opposition, he skated right through them. Everyone knew Brock as an athlete. We read about it in the paper, we saw it on TV, we heard it on the radio, but to me, Brock was much more. Today I want to tell you about Brock, the boy, the man that I knew. Passionate, charismatic, realistic, genuine, and always sincere. I first got to know Brock when he and my son Luke played hockey together as little boys. This forged a lifelong friendship of playing with and against Brock. Brock was a year older than Luke, and it took him under his wing from the beginning. This is what Brock was all about, on and off the ice. He made everyone feel valued, comfortable, and included. It didn't matter if you were a teammate, a classmate, a parent, an aunt, or an uncle. His social skills and love of conversation came from his dad, while his love of numbers and stats and sense of style and haircuts were a gift from his mom. His parents instilled the confidence in him that so many of us would really, truly aspire for today. I mean, come on, who else could have rocked a mullet like that with such confidence? In the final days and weeks of his life, Brock had many visitors and received numerous messages that exemplified these admirable qualities. People who hadn't seen Brock in years reached out in person and on social media to share their stories, say their thank yous, and also their goodbyes. Hundreds of messages were received a day. In the end, there were so many that he was unable to respond to each one, but nonetheless, he insisted to those around him that he read and appreciated each and every single message. Brock was a realist. At a young age, he told his cousin Jared that his ambition was to play in the Western Hockey League, not the National Hockey League like most kids. He knew his limits. He didn't think he had what it took for the NHL, but he knew if he worked hard enough that he could darn well play in the dub. Brock was always pushing forward and willing to work what he wanted, not just in hockey. He started DQ when he was a little boy, and I'm sure that he thought he was running the place by the time he was 6 years old. He took great pride in leadership in this and ownership. When a teacher at Gilbert Patterson once mentioned that there was a mistaken drive-through order, Brock showed up the next day with a $50 gift card and coupons for him. Brock was always a hard worker, a quality instilled in him by his parents, Tim and Shar. Through both of his diagnoses, he continued to attend school and complete his coursework from the hospital with a lot of help from you, Sydney, and a lot of moral support. By age 25 and still a university student, he'd saved enough earnings from Dairy Queen and had enough money to buy his own house. Another long-term goal of Brock's. Despite Brock's life being too short, much too short, he accomplished so much. We will all remember Brock as a natural, humble leader. Never setting out to be recognized, he was the obvious choice to captain so many teams. Minor hockey teams, baseball teams, the Prince George Cougars, and the U of L Pronghorns. It's always been so obvious to me that so many of his teammates felt this way. I definitely saw it that way. Not only did I observe this on his sports teams, his leadership was obvious in everything in his life. At the gym, at the track, at birthday parties, in Whitefish with the boys. His leadership was so reliable that everyone wholeheartedly trusted him and his judgment. If you were Brock's friend, everyone accepted and trusted you. My wife Rhonda and I always asked Luke when he was headed out the door if Brock would be there. If Brock was there, we were never worried. That being said, we've recently learned that there were a few Bud Light limes stolen from Tim's beer fridge before the boys even had their driver's licenses. And possibly there were some rides being hitched from truck drivers in Whitefish, Montana. To the parents, as I've described Brock so far, he was also a mature, strong leader. But to the boys, he knew how to just have the right amount of fun. When too much fun was to be had, my son-in-law Dylan told me Brock was always ready to whip out that leaf blower and do all the cleanup. Steve Young, former quarterback of Brock's beloved 49ers, said, "There's a difference between a dream and a plan. There's nothing wrong with having a dream, but the danger is always attaching your happiness to it. Because life doesn't always go according to plan." We all know Brock's life didn't go according to plan. But like everything else he faced, he was accepting of his fate. He was at peace with his decision. He was more concerned about those around him than he always was for himself. Brock taught us all so many things. As a community, let's continue to honor his legacy by living and sharing these lessons today. Brock taught me many things. He taught me how to measure people, how to treat others. He set the bar high for me. He was always my example in my personal and also my professional life today. I have and will continue to always measure Brock, or character, to Brock's standards. I was so grateful to see Brock the night before he passed and able to get home. In typical Brock fashion, he was sitting in his hospital chair, just like he sat when the hockey stall ready to head into overtime. During his last moments at 26 years of age, Brock exemplified the same qualities I admired the first day I saw that big, messy 7-year-old boy. He was realistic, he was brave, he was genuine, and he was admirable. I take comfort in knowing that, like everything else that Brock did, he did it his way. Tim and Shar, the love and friendship felt in this arena today is a testament to both of you, to this young man you raised, and you both should be so proud. Brock, I won't miss your text that just said, "Hey." I knew what that meant. That meant to respond to you or to call you. And I'll miss you, especially when you're on shift at Dairy Queen, and you let me know if I was stopping by for a special Brock Sunday. Most of all, I'll miss our conversation. I love you, Captain. There is a team waiting up there for you.
me somehow. You're the closest to heaven that I'll ever be, and I don't wanna go home right now. And all I could taste is this moment, and all I can breathe is your light. Sooner or later it's over. I just don't wanna miss you tonight. And I don't want the world to see me, 'cause I don't think that they'd understand. When everything's made to be broken, I just want you to know who I am. And you can't fight the tears that ain't coming, all the moment of truth in your lies. When everything feels like the movies, yeah, you bleed just to know you're alive. And I don't want the world to see me, 'cause I don't think they'd understand. When everything's made to be broken, I just want you to know who I am. And I don't want the world to see me, 'cause I don't think that they'd understand. When everything's made to be broken, I just want you to know who I am. And I don't want the world to see me, 'cause I don't think that they'd understand. When everything's made to be broken, I just want you to know who I am. I just want you to know who I am. I just want you to know who I am. I just want you to know who I am.
Thanks, Rich, for that tribute, that eulogy. I think this song was fitting. We are learning more and more of who Brock was. We're going to have two tributes coming up now from two special people that grew up very Tori Fodder and her dad Mark are going to share tributes. The Fodders are neighbors, really great friends, and from what I understand, essentially another set of parents that raised Brock. So Tori, if you would come forward and share your tribute, and then Mark will follow.
My name is Tori Fodder, and Brock was like a brother to me. I wrote this letter to Brock the day before he passed, and I have the honor to share it with him today as well as all of you. B, as I sit here with you in the hospital, memories on Pine Crescent are running through my head. Life on Pine Crescent was truly a privilege to spend with you. The first time I met you, we were still living on 20th Ave. You and Keaton were in kindergarten, and you came to our house. We were jumping on the trampoline, and not meaning to, you completely bulldozed me off. You didn't mean to, but being the size you were, at age 5, me at age 8, you weighed more than me. You were always a big kid for your age. At that moment, I thought, I don't like that guy. Who would have thought that just a year later, we would be living on the same street, and you, Keaton, and I would become a trio. Our parents always had each other over for dinner, and many barbecues after a round of golf. We spent a lot of hours swimming, rollerblading, and riding our bikes around the neighborhood. You boys used to make up your own triathlons and compete against each other, and I got to be the timekeeper. I can still see you in the pool making big splashes with every stroke. The swimming part wasn't your strong suit, but you made up for lost time on the bike. After school consisted of countless games of mini sticks and hockey in our basements, basketball on your driveway, Crash Bandicoot on PlayStation, Super Mario on N64, and pigging out on dilly bars. The boys would come over and play poker when you guys were just in grade 6. Sometimes on the way home from school, we'd say, "Oh, look, there's so-and-so driving," but you were quick to say and say, "No, that's not them. That's not their license plate number." You were the first kid I'd met that loved classic rock, and you knew it all. You used to blast Tim and Char's stereo in the living room on 93.3 classic rock and sing to every single song. Ch-ch-ch-changes. I can still hear you singing, and Jukebox Hero will always remind me of you. You would always wear your 49ers football helmet when we played hockey in your basement. Safety first is what you'd always say. You were always the responsible one and giving Keaton and me heck when we'd be jumping on the trampoline with no coats on in early spring. You'd say that we'd catch a cold and we would just laugh at you. You were right though, you were rarely ever sick. Brock, you had a lot of passion for everything and everyone around you. You were an outstanding leader on all your teams that you played on, as well in your everyday life too. You put your heart in all that you did, and your positive outlook on life will forever be admired by so many. It amazes me to see just how many lives that you've touched in just your short life, but it certainly doesn't surprise me. We've had a lot of fun times, Brock, and I'll cherish our memories for a lifetime. Keaton and I were truly blessed to have shared our childhood with you. May peace find you and comfort you. I'll love you forever, and you will always be in my heart until I see you again. Every day is a 49ers game day. Love always, Tori.
Tim, these are my own. Good afternoon. Tim and Char, my sincerest condolences, Sydney as well. To everyone that's ever had the privilege of knowing Brock, True honor to be standing here with all of you today. My name is Mark Fodder. Our families have been neighborhood friends of Tim and Char's and very fortunate to have been part of Brock's amazing journey. My tribute today is of memories and speaks much of a much younger Brock growing up as a kid. It was obvious that Brock was beyond his years in mind, size, and maturity. Forever, Brock referred to Mom and Dad as Tim and Char, and most adults as their first name. On road trips to summer hockey, Brock was always the guy riding shotgun, discussing stats, players, and sports he loved. It's been mentioned that Brock had a photographic mind. At a very early age, he had the ability to memorize vehicles and license plates. He would call them out upon arriving at Lakeview Elementary School, just like the photo radar guy. NT9 512, that was Carolee Newdorf, Ayrton and Mason's mom. Coxie 1 wasn't Claire, that was Brad, who drives a 1999 white Ford Expedition, and Claire drives a 1997 white extended Suburban. One morning on the commute to school, Brock spotted the photo guy. Gwen, to the right, the blue minivan, license plate IGOTU. I got you. That's what Brock thought the license plate should have read. Principal Walker drove a Datsun 5-speed on the floor, and Brock pointed out that Mr. Watson didn't appear to be at work that day. My son Keaton quickly suggested they take the day off and play a little mini sticks and go swimming. Brock said, no, Keaton. It's very important that we go to school and get an education. Personally, I wish they'd have played video games that day after school, instead of shooting pucks in our garage. For what I saw, they were taking aim at everything but the net. A smashed flower pot, a tin can garbage can left barely standing, and a just wide missed couple of slap shots through the drywall. I'm sure they were practicing clearing the zone, probably on the penalty kill, doing play-by-play, which helped explain the puck marks on the ceiling and the broken bulb they were trying to clean up. We wouldn't notice. Excuse me. So they decided to set up the net outside of the garage, shooting tennis balls, taking out the odd Christmas light and denting the eaves troughs. Seeing were ball marks on the upper bedroom windows. I may be wrong, but I think that would have been Robbie Trophy. He could really rip it. I know things were going to improve after I bought a bigger net. One day Brock showed up in full goalie gear. He could stop just about everything with those oversized pads, blocker, big mitt, and of course his 49er football helmet used as a goalie mask. I'd like to share with you that Brock wasn't an all-out athlete when it came to water sports, especially swimming. A younger Brock became famous for his full-out run and sprint off the diving board and jumping really high with one hand in the air holding his nose, dog paddling back to the ladder yelling, "Did anyone see that?" Brock almost sunk to the bottom of Cox's pool, as they really had a nice springboard. Many family and friends trying to teach Brock proper technique on how to dive, belly flop, cannonball, front flip, or touch the toes spread eagle. But Brocco could only master his own personal dives. Tidal wave, the moose tsunami, the big wet splash that got everybody soaked within 10 feet of the pool. Our neighborhood was often a place of gathering, especially when Brock was around. Gwen welcomed all the kids, keeping them safe while nourishing them with healthy chips, cheesies, my pretzels, along with a variety of drinks and ice cream floats. I recall my time barbecuing, chicken, hot dogs, hamburgers, all at once and wondering who was coming over for supper. It was normally just Brock and Tim, but it wouldn't have mattered who came over. Tim would often come over with a bag of dilly bars for the kids that he paid for, a few little extras in our freezer that I thought were for me. Sleepovers became irregular, making tents out of couch cushions, blankets, pillows, and more cushions. A maze built for adventure. Hours of Super Mario, blink, 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 drove me crazy. Movie night ended up being poker night when pennies were still worth nothing. But it was more about the sunglasses and the hoodies and the faces just like the professionals. Hey, pass the chips. Not those chips. Birthdays, barbecues, ice cream cakes were another good reason to get together. Dairy Queen cakes, always done to perfection with beautiful themes. Hockey, golf, baseball, hockey, golf, baseball, hockey, golf, more baseball. Piñatas, swimming games, trampoline, competitions. Brock always had a thought and a fun game in mind for everyone. As the seasons changed, so did the sports venues. Nearing the start of a baseball season, the boys were seen practicing their pitching in front of Pine. The catcher was to give signals for a fastball, a curveball, a hard sinker that didn't sink and went right through the front bay window. Of course, the catcher was at fault for not catching that and giving the wrong signal. Brocco did become a very elite ball player in his growing-up years. He became an established pitcher and can throw that stinker sinker. He was a great back catcher and would sacrifice his body and called the game with the coaches. He could hit or he could bunt. He wasn't afraid to run the bases, steal home, and challenge the other team's skills. It was his nature to fully understand the sports he enjoyed playing. He was always able to excel and play and compete with the best. Tim and Shar always took on billets, and Brock developed long-lasting outside friendships, which was his specialty. Quick trips to Whitefish were appreciated and offered by many after summer hockey. A weekend of golf, water skiing, and of course a Brad Cox boot camp that started with a 2-mile run before 7 o'clock breakfast. Brock was always up for a challenge, even in the water. Whatever his buddies were doing, he was going to do as well. Tubing, wakeboarding, water skiing, he was going to try it. It would be safe to say that water skiing to Brock was like skating on dull blades, a little awkward. The first attempt, one of many, he was instructed to hang on tight to the rope, which explains why he drank half the lake trying to get up, not realizing he could have just let go. Once up, I think he could have went a little further had he just hung on with both hands instead of holding one hand with the rope and the other hand with his nose. A few skis later, he was already trying to drop one and slaloming just like his friends. For many years, Brock, Connor, and Keaton were seen at the country club playing golf, eating lunch, eating supper, eating snacks, tipping healthy to the cart ladies. They weren't so generous to Dave, the server, as they left him a broken tea, a chocolate bar wrapper, or a piece of mud off their shoes. The boys would often be seen in our backyard perfecting their golf swings, which meant to me less grass to cut. They'd be chipping, putting, which doesn't explain how a Titleist driver ended up in our kitchen sink that afternoon. First we heard a smash, then we heard a swear. Then we heard from Brock I was teaching Keaton the proper grip and rip, but I had no idea he was going for the window. I'll just mention that things weren't much better at the Hirsche house. They had a great hockey room downstairs, and by this time the kids were playing with the big sticks. I know Tim wasn't super forgiving in the moment, but like Brock said, Tim, it's only a window. Tim was quick to point out, Brock, it's the third window. We were getting close to apply for the household improvement and energy tax saving benefits being offered. During hockey break, Brock wanted to try another adventure, snow skiing. How hard could it be? We spent an hour on the lower hill learning the basics and warming up. Marco, let's do it. So off we went to the top. He was performing like his nickname, a slow-moving moose, but doing amazingly well. It was decided to take a break and stop at the chalet for lunch. That stop, Brock nearly took out a quarter of the ski racks. Yeah, what are they doing here? Brock was also named Brock the Jock from a local radio station when he was about 12. It was Morning with Merv and Marv, and I believe it was Marv. Yes, it was you, Marv. Announced the captain of the Edmonton Oilers as Jason Smith, not Ryan Smith, and proceeded to call the radio station. Marv was being inquisitive and asked questions like, how old are you? How do you know this? Are you an Oilers fan? And they're leading their conference by how many games? So impressed, they invited Brock the Jock to the station where he live broadcasted the morning sports, talking about more sports and handling himself like a real pro. Before you know it, the kids were young teenagers. Brock had developed a strong work ethic, working part-time at the Dairy Queen. Brock was determined to purchase a house, and in the next few years, decided to make some serious coin and work full-time roofing for 2 summers. The birthdays were going by quick, and the dilly bars were turning into Bud Light beers. The charades were getting more and more interesting. Closest to the park, that's hitting a golf ball from our backyard on Pine over the houses to Redwood Park. Launching from the roof, that was water balloons fired at passing cars in neighborhood yards. The worst might have been when he jumped off the roof into the pool. Brocco, Marco, don't worry, 2 years of roofing, I got this. All I can say is we did our best. Brock always went to the end of the line for everyone. He was a trusted friend, his opinions valued. We will continue to share stories about the good times and keep his memory strong in our hearts. We were all privileged to watch this incredible kid turn into this amazing young man. Last night there was some very touching stories given by some very brave young men and women. Easton Smith kind of summed it up for me. How do you say goodbye to a person that had such an influence on your life? I figure you don't. You just say thank you. When I told Brock thank you last Saturday, he said, "No, Marco, I thank you." He thanks all of us. So thank you for sharing our day. We pray for Brock. Thank you.
Thanks for that, both of you. That was awesome. The next tribute we're going to hear is from Lexa Fraser. Last night, Lexa came up and shared a bit of a story. Lexa is Brock's cousin. She's only 6 weeks older, is that right? Older. Younger. Ooh. 6 weeks younger. Good thing he's not here to defend himself. But last night, she shared a one story about him. And I would guess that Lexa has a whole book full of stories that would make fun of things like his hair, along with a whole lot of other stuff. But Lexa's going to come up here and share a tribute to her cousin. Some funny stories, some memories. Why don't you join us, Lexa, and share with us?
Hi, everyone. As you said, my name's Lexa. This is my sister, Sydney. She's here for emotional support. So, first, I wanted to say my deepest condolences to the entire Hirsche family, as well as to my entire family, the Peters family. And then finally to Sydney and your family. So thank you, everyone, for being here today in celebration of Brock and the inspiring person that he was. Anyone who knows Brock knows that he was an avid sports fan and an all-around athlete. However, I'm going to preface this speech by saying I won't be talking about Brock's hockey career or athletic accomplishments. Even if I tried, I'm sure I wouldn't have any idea which were the most important or impressive in the very, very long list of accomplishments. This actually is the only hockey jersey I own. It's from a school team I joined a few years ago, and when I took my first pair of hockey skates to get sharpened, I had to ask what they would suggest for a figure skater now attempting to play hockey. So they recommended extra sharp. What I can try to speak to is the type of person that Brock was, how lucky I was to grow up with him, and what he meant to both me and my family. As was mentioned, Brock and I were born only 6 weeks apart. And I wouldn't claim to be his best friend right now, but he was my first best friend. We lived only a short 5-minute drive from each other and essentially grew up together. I was the oldest child in my family, and Brock was an only child. And so in those early years, we were more like brother and sister than cousins. My grandma Pat always comments on what a great team we were. That is if by team she means Lexa bossing Brock around. I'm sure both my grandparents could tell you about many shenanigans we got into. Some of my fondest memories, though, are from the Friday nights I spent at Brock's house, eating pizza fingers, cheese only, and then we would take the electronic Jeep around the block for a spin. Brock always drove because I just crashed way too often, and I was the navigator telling him where to go. And in the evenings, always ended with asking Charlotte and Tim for a few dollars to walk down to Frank's convenience store and spend it all on penny candy. As we grew older, we naturally drifted apart as we made our own friends and had our own interests. Eventually, we ended up at different schools. I was at LCI, and Brock attended CCH so he could be a part of their hockey program. No matter what, though, he was always someone I could count on. There was one year we were both competing in the local track meet, representing our different schools, and I was about to compete in the 200-meter sprint, and I didn't have anyone to hold my blocks at the start line for me. And I looked around, and Brock was off watching long jump or something, and I just sort of instinctively yelled out to him, I'm like, hey Brock, come hold my blocks for me. And the way I phrased it wasn't really a request or a question, it was just more of an expectation that he would. And he did it without batting an eye, and I can't imagine what his teammates thought at the time. Who is this random chick from LCI telling Brock what to do? And in moments like that, I knew nothing had really changed between us. I was still bossing him around, I was just 15 instead of 3. We continued to grow older and follow our separate ambitions, and Brock moved away to Prince George to play hockey, and I moved to Edmonton for school. We're fortunate enough, though, to meet up a few times a year, whether it be for Christmas or summer days in Granny's pool. A few years later, at the young age of 23, was when Brock was diagnosed with testicular cancer. And being diagnosed with cancer is never easy, and hearing this news certainly shook our family. Everyone handles it in a different way. But Brock handled it the way he handled everything in life, with determination and an unwavering positive outlook. I don't doubt that he had hard days, because how could you not? I think when he did have hard days, he probably depended a lot on Sydney, who truly was an angel in his life this past year. I wanted to take a brief moment to thank you especially for all the support I know you gave him. Our family is so grateful to you and hope you continue to be a presence in our lives. I think even when Brock did have hard days, though, most people would never have known it by talking to him. Throughout his diagnosis, his surgeries, his chemo, radiation, he remained steadfast and his outlook never dampened. Years ago, before he ever faced this battle, someone had said to me, "Cancer is a word and not a sentence." And I feel like Brock embodied this sentiment. He continued to live his life, and through all his hardships, he was more focused on all the people around him than he ever was on himself. These past few years, whenever I would talk to Brock or text him, he would be telling me he was proud of me and what I had accomplished. And I never really knew how to respond to him when he did. Even just last week, he texted me and it said, "I really am super proud of you, Lexa. Your drive and determination are unheard of." In reflecting on this, I think I never truly felt like what I was doing really compared to what he was going through, how much he was able to accomplish, and more importantly, how many people he was able to touch in his short time with us. This is evident by everyone sitting here, as well as the numerous others who I'm sure would have wanted to be here today. Furthermore, it's clear to me after hearing even more stories about Brock these past few days that truly his drive and determination were unheard of. The courage and positivity with which he faced these past months was inspiring, and so in response to that text last week, I made sure to let him know how proud I was of him. I'm not going to pretend that losing Brock this week wasn't heartbreaking. It's the kind of sadness that truly no words or actions or gestures can make better. And it's the kind of sadness that had me crying in my car in the parking lot after a long day at work. You long to say or do something that can take the pain away, but the truth is, these moments of grief, there is nothing that can be said or done to make it better. And I don't say this to be depressing. I say it more to acknowledge the magnitude of how much Brock meant to so many of us, and put it out there that sometimes it's okay to not be okay. And in this sadness, though, what I have found to be helpful, at least for me, is to try and embrace the same courage and positivity that Brock embodied during his life. When my days get tough, I find myself thinking, what would Brock do? And I feel like he would face the day head on, find the positive in a situation that seemingly has no positives. Because that to me is what Brock did best. He found the positive in every day that he lived, every person he met, and every situation he was handed. And we love you, Brock. You'll be forever missed, but always in our hearts.
Sydney, if you would join me up here. Sydney is Brock's girlfriend, someone who journeyed a tough road over the last year, the last few months with Brock, going to tests and appointments and difficult times. Sydney's going to share a tribute to Brock.
This is a lot of people. I'm Sydney, if nobody knows me. I haven't been able to get through this yet, so bear with me. Dear Brock, I'm not too sure where to begin. I've come back to this letter time and time again over the past 4 months, and I am still at loss for words. I look out into the crowd of friends, family, and loved ones, and I am so thankful for the time they got to spend with you, because mine was cut way too short. You often told me that if this day were to come, that you would want me to grieve, but find comfort knowing you were happy. I now pray you are being held with loving arms, playing a lot of hockey, and listening to your favorite music, as I know that's when you were at your happiest. I want to share with the crowd how we first met, so I hope you get a good laugh with me sharing how we came to be. I met Brock through school. We never really knew each other, but somehow you got a hold of my number. I used the cheesiest pickup line I could muster up. If you were a fruit, you would be a fine apple. And it has been history ever since. Your quirky humor and calm, loving nature kept me close. I never wanted to let you go, as you were my world. You make me feel at ease when I get anxious. You make me feel beautiful when I feel bad. You pick me up in the darkest times and give me a good kick in the ass when I need it most. You always push me to pursue my dreams and to continue to do so. If I do anything with myself moving forward, I vow to keep doing all that I aspire to do, knowing you will be with me every step of the way. From lazy afternoons, breakfast in bed, and really poor rounds of golf on my part, I love and will always love these moments we cherish together. When we got the initial news and we packed our stuff to return home to Lethbridge February 14th, you turned to me and made me promise to fill what time we had with all the love and activities we could manage. I hope I did a good enough job, as you have been my only priority the past 6 months in trying to make you feel the best you could. From cooking dinner to cleaning to rubbing your back or holding your hand, I would do it 1,000 times over. You asked me to marry you, and I'm so sorry we never got the chance, because I would have been the luckiest girl in the world. We often talked about having kids in the future, even though we could never agree on how many. You finally gave in to having many, knowing I would never give up. I remember you telling me, well, I guess more boys I can put in hockey and more girls to look like you. I think our parents would have been really like that. You always just wanted to make me happy. I wish we could have grown old together and shared these memories too. We wanted a lifetime. I figure I'll have to thrive off stories and memories to fill the gaps in my heart, and I hope your friends and family will do me that honor of sharing those with me. You always told me you wanted to get to know everyone in your life, and I can make you that promise to continue to do so. I've been welcomed with open arms and hearts by all, and I hope you are watching over with the comfort that I will be okay. You and I got to buy a puppy, and I am ever so glad you got to meet him. His original purpose was to make you happy, but I think you knew he would be a bigger role for me. You are probably laughing at the amount of stuff he has already gotten into, but he is really hard not to love. Our little moose has fulfilled your big shoes and already has brought me immense amount of joy and comfort. Your positivity and strength during the most difficult times has given me every reason to be strong for you, our families, and myself now. You have taught me how to love and fight, and I am so proud of you for everything you have accomplished and every hurdle you've jumped. At 26 and 21, we would have never thought we would be going through something like this. But we never thought we'd get to share so much love in such a short time either. You were meant to love me, and I was meant to love you, Brock. You are and will always be my best friend, my right-hand man. I love you with all my heart, and I'll see you soon. Sid.
Thanks, Sid. Thanks for the courage to share a piece of that with us. We're almost finished, friends. We've done all the things that I said we might do. I hope and pray that this has taken you further in your journey of grief, that you've found some solace, some rest, maybe some healing for your souls. Friends, I want to share a short passage of scripture with you. I've also lost. I've hurt. The expression on many of your faces is something that I've experienced. I've felt alone and devastated. I've felt hurt and abandoned. I've asked some of the same questions you're asking of why? How come? Why now? Why this? I've looked for rest and peace and answers in many places. But I want to share with you something that's eternal, something that's been around for a long time. Friends, in my grief, in my anger, in my hurt, in my searching, in my dark days, I often land in the Bible. I actually more specifically land in the book of Psalms. I'm not sure if that's because when I throw it down on the bed or the table, it just opens up to the middle of the book and that's where I start reading. But Psalms seems to be a place that I find rest, that I find answers to my grief and to my hope. And I think it's partially because the author, the psalmist that writes all these chapters, has experienced some of the same things we're experiencing today. This person named David has experienced death. He's experienced loss. He's even experienced bad choices that he made in his life. The way he writes makes us think that he's experienced separation and being alone. I'm going to read you one psalm. It's not Psalm 23 that often gets read and that maybe you've actually read in the past week, but it's Psalm 13. It says this. It says, "How long, Lord? How long will you forget me? How long will you hide your face from me? How long must I wrestle with my thoughts and day after day have sorrow in my heart? How long will my enemy triumph over me?" Anybody have these feelings this last week? Does this sound like maybe the author knows how we felt this last week? Feelings of alone and dark, feelings of broken and hurt. He doesn't stop though. He says this, "Look on me and answer. Lord, my God, give light to my eyes, or I will sleep in death. And my enemy will say, I have overcome him, and my foes will rejoice when I fall." This author sounds lost. He can't find comfort. The sleeping in death is dark. He's looking to not be overcome by evil, to not be overcome by alone. So he keeps writing, and he ends with these two verses. I never stop at the first four. This is where I land. He says, "But I trust in your unfailing love. My heart rejoices in your salvation. He even goes as far as to say, I will sing the Lord's praise, for he has been good to me. These stories and these memories and these great things that we've heard about Brock will live with us forever. I was in your house. There's lots of Brock still there, and those memories will live with you forever. The memorabilia, the stuff. The 49ers aren't going away. You're going to watch them for a few years. Maybe wear the helmet. I'm gonna. Those are the things that God has given us to cling on to as joy. He's been good to me. The peace, the hope maybe even that sitting here together has given us. The love, the example of love that Brock was. Not the same. I'm assuming that what we're describing is not the same as everybody else. But I trust in your unfailing love. My heart rejoices in your salvation. I will sing the Lord's praise, for he has been good to me. Psalm 13, friends, an author who knows our pain, who's felt the pain, who doesn't want to stay in the darkness that we're feeling today, knows that God loves us and cares about us. If we read further in Matthew, which is the New Testament, there's two translations. Matthew 5 verse 4 says this, and one of the translations called the Message says this, you're blessed when you feel you've lost what is most dear to you. Only then can you be embraced by the one most dear to you. You're blessed when you feel you've lost what is most dear to you. Only then can you be embraced by the one most dear to you. The New International Version says, blessed are those who mourn. Most of you today, for they will be comforted. Friends, we have a God who wants to comfort us, who wants us to leave here with peace and with hope and with love and a comfort. Take all of these memories and stories, and thank you to all of you who have shared those. All of the history that you share with Brock and those memories from teams and sports and growing up together and all of the experiences of life that family brings. Mourn, but leave with the hope. We'll be reunited one day, but God says, blessed are you that mourn, for you will be comforted. There's a God who hears you. A God we can trust. You will be blessed and comforted. Look for comfort in him. Let's pray together. God, thank you for today, that we could be together in a time that we need to be together. God, we need each other. We need you. God, thank you for memories. Memories of a real person. Memories of Brock that are going to fill us and take us on for a while, that will bring us joy, that will wish we had more time. But God, we know that he's painless. He's looking down thinking, I don't have to endure that anymore. God, comfort us. God, give us peace. Give us rest. God, this affects many people's lives. God, we think of the families that are hurting, the families that are missing a peace. God, comfort them. God, fill this hole with peace. God, fill this hole with hope and love. God, join them closer together. God, we know a hockey world is trembling and hurting today as well. Brock being a piece of it. Comfort them as well. God, bring peace to the situation. God, bless those who mourn and bring comfort. Thank you for today, that we could be here to grieve together and you could be a part of it. We pray these things in your Son's name. Amen. We're going to conclude today with something special. There's a recorded tribute, a goal that was very special. We're going to hear Brock's name over the loudspeaker one more time. From Ryan, thanks for calling this for us, buddy. And we're going to leave to one of his favorite songs, an REO Speedwagon song, Keep on Loving You. We're going to walk out together, so if you be patient with us as we move on. Thank you for joining us today.
Good evening, hockey fans. I'm Ryan O'Donnell, and welcome back live inside the Nicholas Sharon Arena, where the Pronghorns trail the Manitoba Bisons 1-0. Despite trailing the game, the captain Brock Hirsche has had a tremendous game thus far, creating chance after chance for the Pronghorns, dominating on faceoffs and blocking a ton of shots. Speaking of Hirsche, he's back out on the ice and getting set to take the draw in the defensive zone to the right of Pronghorn goaltender Dylan Tate. Hirsche wins the draw back for Henke. Henke slides it D-to-D for McMullen. McMullen, he'll go cross-ice for Hirsche. Hirsche down the wing, fires the shot, scores! The captain, Brock Hirsche, blows one by Caligieri and ties the game at 1. Ding, fries are done. Ding, fries are done. Ding, fries are done.
reach for the sky. Hold your head up high for tonight and every night. You're a superstar, and don't you be afraid. Think of all